Welcome to Module 2. In this class, we are going to discuss oral academic citation, and there are three learning objectives. The first, identify key elements of an orally citing academic evidence, some of the information that you need to bear in mind before you even begin. And then I'm going to kind of walk you guys through the things you need to know in order to be able to draft your short speech, and while taking into account all the necessary citation that needs to go into it. And then finally, give you something to kind of pay attention to when it comes to actually citing, and hopefully you guys get into some practice in order to kind of get it right, or get it rightish. I do want to note that being able to do oral citation is something that is going to take time and practice. You are not going to, get it right the first time or the second time that you do it. So if you are doing it and you find yourself stumbling, do not be discouraged. It does take a bit of time to get to the point where you are going to be comfortable with it. So do bear that in mind. So, elements of an oral citation. When you are citing in your speeches, what you're trying to do is to convey that the information that you are providing is reliable, it is valid, and it is credible. And you are essentially telling your audience that you have researched your topic, you have really given some thoughts in it, and therefore you know what it is that you're saying. And because of this, we do not wing our oral citation. If you do that, you will come off being you come off it looking as if you are unprepared, or you also come off looking as if you don't know what you're saying. Meanwhile, you may already have done all the work, but if you're not able to transition from the work that you've done and getting things all in place and being able to talk about it, it doesn't match what you know in your head, and what comes out of your mouth therefore wouldn't match. So that's the reason why we don't wing our oral citation. In the same way that you take your time to write your essay, is the same way that you take your time and plan out your oral citation. So when you don't cite, is considered plagiarism, and this is irrespective whether you include your citation in your reference list or your bibliography. You still have to verbally cite your sources. So always be mindful of that. That just because you have provided the links, or even the citation of where your sources is, it is not the same thing as saying it, and it doesn't take the place of saying it. So you have to do both. So so long as your information is coming from a source, you have to cite that source. And this is whether you're paraphrasing or you're directly quoting your source. And in everything that you're going to do in this course, your assignments particularly, they are going to be coming from a source. So you want to make sure that you are acknowledging those sources, and you are, including that in your citation, in order to show that, you didn't just come up one day and just say it. We want to see those being properly represented in your speech. So examples of oral citation would be this. In this citation is, some of the information that is provided is the publication date of the article, the journal where the article was published, the name of the author, and even where the author works. It's up in University of Kent. And then in this citation, it is a direct quote, and as you can see, it says, and I quote, and then the quoting continues. In the second example, also information that is provided about the source of the information. You have the publication date, the name of the journal, the name of the author, as well as the professional association that the author is affiliated with, and as well as the information from that article is then paraphrased, as you can see that there is no direct quote. So from module one, we use this as an example that says, how does the healthcare system in the United States compare to the healthcare systems in other countries? So as we mentioned in module one, your essay is restricted to points related to healthcare system, and you're told to compare countries. So to do that, if you do anything beyond that or not outside that in terms of comparing states or regions within the US, you would be out of scope. So you want to be mindful of that. And this topic, while this topic I have here has not restricted you to the number of countries, you can go as many or as few as you want. But if, for instance, a limitation has been placed in the topic, please keep within the limitation as you've been expected to do. So you have this now. Try to draft a speech out of this. In your speech, we still have, the same topic. In this case, you think of your speech as an oral essay, meaning all the restrictions and all the, considerations you should pay in an essay, you need to pay it in your speech in the same manner. Same as when you're writing an essay, you need to stay in scope. When you are drafting your speeches, you also need to stay in scope. For example, restricted to healthcare system, strictly compare countries, and all of those things that you're going to do in your written essay is what you need to do in your speeches as well. So this is from module one, where it kind of shows that a well-structured essay must have introduction, a body, conclusion. This is the same. And in an oral essay, the introduction is a general overview. The body is the meat of the essay. As if you can remember, I did say this is where the most of your points are coming. So do not pay more attention to introduction or conclusion, and then you have a very short body. If you do that, you are not going to do very well in that essay. So always have the most of your focus to be on the body rather than the introduction or the conclusion. And then the conclusion is, of course, a summary or deductions from your essay. So that is the same way that it works with oral speeches. In the introduction, you are setting the scene. That is a general overview of the topic. And the body is, of course, still the meat of the speech. And this is where most of your citation is going to go into the body. You are still going to have some citation go into the introduction, but a majority of your citation is going to go into the speech, being that you're going to spend more time on the body than you're going to spend on the introductions. Therefore, naturally, your citations are going to be more on the body than it is going to be in the introduction. And then in the conclusion, what you're basically doing is all of those plenty things that you've said in the body. You are now going to compress all of that into 2 to 4 sentences. So that's really something to pay attention to. Your assignments are going to require you guys to spend 5 minutes in your speeches, in your oral citations. So pay attention to allocation of time, kind of time yourself into how much time should go into your introduction, how much time should go into your conclusion. But, like I said, a majority of your time should go into the body. Always be mindful of that. And, we know from module 1, that introduction is a general overview. What you're doing here, with the example of the topic given, is you're describing what the healthcare system is. An example would be, you're describing a general healthcare system. You're summarizing the US healthcare system and stuff like that. Your conclusion is the meat of the essay. Once again, and I gave an example of what that would be like orange is A, B, and C, while apple is C, E, and H, or that other example. And your conclusion is briefly summarizing the information. So, in a speech, let's see, this is the topic we have. This is your introduction, general overview. Remember, you're summarizing the healthcare system. And this is an example of the summary in an oral speech. And it says in this 2001 article titled Nothing Short of a Complete Overhaul, which will cure US Americans' healthcare system. The information that is provided in this oral citation is the publication year of the article, the title of the article, and the names of the authors. This is a quote in this case. So we quote your direct quotes. You're kind of saying everything that it is that I said. You're not paraphrasing it. So this will be an example of an introduction. And then in the body of the essay, remember you are comparing. So always, pay attention to that. And this is an example of what that would look like. So this example includes both paraphrasing as well as a direct quote. There are two sources that are cited in this speech. You can pause at this point and just kind of read through it. You can see that there is actually comparison that is happening in here. So, like I said, pause and read through so that you see what it is that I mean. And then we have your conclusion. Your conclusion is, remember, you are briefly summarizing the information in the introduction or the body. And, it often does not have a citation. For the most part, your conclusion don't have citation. The reason being that you are kind of repeating the same thing that you've said before. You're just kind of saying it in a more succinct way. Like I said, you're compressing all of that information into fewer sentences. So there's really no need to, do the citation again, because they have, remember, been previously cited. So this would be an example of the conclusion. It says here, in conclusion, not only is the US outspending the countries included in this oral argument, but the growth in the country's healthcare spending is occurring at a steeper rate than it is the GDP. And that is all that's plenty information that was in the body, this lots of things that has been said in the body. What have not done in the conclusion is to compress it all into one sentence in this case. So that is what an example of what that looks like. So practice. One thing to pay attention to when it comes to practice is transition. And so written essays would have headings and subheadings to kind of signal to the reader that this is where we are now. Oral citations do not have headings and subheadings. So what you need to do in place of those is to use transition words. Your transition words, what they do is that they indicate that you have, you're beginning one portion of the structure, their speech, or you are done with that portion and now you're moving into the next portion. So this is some of my examples. When let's say you're starting an introduction, you could say, I want to begin by, so signaling to your audience that this is my introduction. And in your body, you could say, I shall now compare. Again, what is doing is signaling to your audience that this is where you are now. And your conclusion, you could just say to conclude. It's usually one of the easiest ones to say in terms of transition words. And you can then say what it is that you want to say. It is very, very important that you have thought through your transition words because if you do not do that, what is going to happen is that you're going to jumble up your speech. What that would then do is that it will make things difficult for your audience or your grader. In this case, that being me, it will be I'll have difficulty following your argument, and this will affect your grade. So pay attention to your transition words so that it helps signal that I'm done with this and now I'm talking about the next thing, so that this way I can logically follow your arguments and know where it is where you are and where it is that you are now going to. It's very important to pay attention to your transition words. Finally, practice. Like, go practice. When you're starting, you may need to do a few more practices, but by the time you kind of get used to it and get a hang of it, then you will do much less practicing. So always remember, seek clarification in the Q&A board if there's any part of this class that you're kind of confused about, or especially your assignment. Do have a lovely day.